This is how bad the UK is. It doesn't give me any pleasure. In fact, it makes me damn annoyed because I try to protect people's wealth. I used to send messages to people on group messages because I'm a bit of a bullion expert, with indicators for the lowest buying signals every year for silver and gold, and I never got it wrong, not once. I was sending buying signals to people when silver was $9.29 an ounce. I was sending buying signals out when gold was 700, 800 and 900 and 909 pounds an ounce, just because I'd done the study and it was I could see what was coming here, this depression, recession. And though, as I said, I didn't know the cause, I didn't know they were going to pull something like this, but the effect on the UK and how they wanted the UK to slip into third world status was clearly obvious from the start anyway, for me, which was why I left, because it's an island sinking. It's not, in my mind, I'm sorry, but the UK has no future. The real meaning of that is the food. It's the amount of imports compared to the amount of exports, for example, and the fact that the UK sold out its farming, manufacturing so long ago that the UK can only import now. So I'm going to give you some figures to back all this up, and I am damned angry with my fellow countrymen back home and women for letting this happen, because there were people screaming at you in terms of property pricing, in terms of mortgage debt, investments, nothing outlandish, but I wasn't alone. And now just have a listen to these figures from that tiny little grey island surrounded by a cold North Sea. Economic output fell over 20% in the month of April, and it stabilised at under 20% in May. April saw export volumes fall by 17.7% and import volumes decline by 26.5%. Since the start of the lockdown on the 23rd of March, output has plunged by 5.8% in March and 20.4% in April. Manufacturing output fell by 24.5% and the service sector by 19.8% in the same time period. Job retention. A fall in GDP of 11.5%. 11.5%. The last economic crash was 1%. The last recession was 1% drop in GDP. So 11.5% for 2020, and a rise in unemployment from 3.9% in March to an excess of 10% by the end of March 2021. A prediction. My prediction actually would be 20%. And that's not doom and gloom, because a lot of these statistics, as you know, 88.6% of statistics are made up on the spot. These, however, aren't. Some of them are a little, anything that says by 2021, by 2023 is a future prediction, but the figures, every other figure I'm giving you is a prediction. Well, not a prediction, is a recorded figure. So let's go into some sectors, shall we? Falls in revenue for accommodation and food services 88.1%, construction industry minus 40%, arts and entertainment 40%, education 33.4%, transportation and storage minus 28.8%, wholesale, retail, motor services minus 27%, information and communication 13.3%, financial and insurance services 5.3%. So you can tell there which industries are going to be the worst hit going into the long term as well. Obviously the worst hit is going to be accommodation and food, followed by construction, followed by arts and entertainment, followed by education, transportation, storage, wholesale, retail and motor, financial and insurance services, information and communication, and financial and insurance services are suffering the least losses if you're looking for a new job or looking to invest some money in stocks and shares. And I won't even go into that, because how on earth the stock market, the billionaires must have piled in back in February for this to be occurring, for the same figures to be published on the FTSE and the Dow compared to what I'm telling you now. So let's carry on. There are 9.3 million employees on the furlough scheme. 9.3 million, did you know that? Costing at the moment estimated 39 billion. There's a 10 billion support scheme for the self-employed, and an additional 16 billion has been earmarked for essential public services, and 15 billion for grants and loans to businesses. And you know who's going to be paying that back in the future, don't you? Yep, it'll be you. The total cost is estimated to be 103.6 billion. That's peanuts in this day and age, isn't it? For the likes of these people, it's peanuts. Of which 99.3 billion is in increased government expenditure and 4.3 billion in tax cuts and concessions. The effect on the government finances will be a fiscal deficit of more than 10% of GDP, and the national debt rising from 80% to an eventual 110% of GDP over the next few years. The UK is and will continue to be a third world nation after this scamdemic. More data for you. It's disgusting. 27% of the lowest fifth in income distribution have been furloughed, while the figure for the top 1/5 is only 10%. Likewise, 8% of the lowest fifth in income distribution have been made unemployed, while the corresponding figure for the top fifth is only 2%. A young worker versus older worker divide exists too, with 30% of 18 to 24-year-olds furloughed and only 10% made unemployed. So 10% made unemployed. While the figures for 54 to 59-year-olds is estimated at 17% and 3% respectively. 1 in 4 lower income households have increased their use of consumer credit during the pandemic, while the corresponding figure for high income households is 1 in 8. A typical worker in the shutdown sector of the economy and most at risk of unemployment had an average savings of just £1,900 compared to £4,700 for those who've been able to work from home. I mean, it is quite incredible the speed of how the once one of the world's richest nations, the envy of the world, has allowed itself to get into this condition. I mean, we can't just blame anal bleaching, supercharged Friday nights out and foreign holidays for this shit pit, can we? You've got to really question the mental aptitude of the citizens for allowing this to continue. It's I'm reading through an article as I'm talking to you actually. It's absolutely harrowing, because there was no need for any of this. None. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot here. I could go through more, but I don't really want to. For those of you listening that might know me, I never got a thank you, by the way, for sending sound financial advice that I was doing myself that enabled me to retire at 35. So if you plough money into housing, or you just went and spunked all your cash, maybe you're a gambler, maybe you're a drinker, I don't know, maybe you've got a habit that's too expensive, maybe you're just an idiot, I don't know, but look at the country you're in at the moment, look at the island that you're on, and make an escape route. If you want a life of quality, if you want food, if you want fresh air, water, if you want to be away from the crazies, you need to start thinking about selling up and getting off that tiny little island, because, well, it's done. Do you want me to go into the demographics of population, the birth rates, the fertility rates, the migration rates, how many children are born to indigenous English and British couples? I don't think you would, because you'd start squirming, a lot of you, because you've let your island go, you've lost your island. And when there were people trying to warn you that this would happen, that Britain was so delicately poised as a society that one push over the edge and the island would collapse in on itself. Well, this is the first 6 months of 2020. What are the next 6 months going to do to you? And are you going to do anything about it? And if you can't do anything about it, look for a better life, because life on that island is going to become, and is, dire. Cheers, everyone.